relevant, even still it is existing. Those points actually I would like to focus on this point. Here, the concept of administration is as old as the human civilizations. When the civilizations emerged, or when the settlements were emerged in the way back or in the historical period, then only the concept of administration was also evolved. Evolved in all the civilizations, particularly 5500 BC, 5500 BC in Mesopotamia, in the West Asia, and in India, we had a urban civilization. The traces of the civilization, it was developed. From there itself, actually, when they got when they established the cities, through the proper channel of administration or proper administrative bodies were existed. Those bodies were looked at the administration of the civic administration as well as the urban administration. But here, the concept of administration was derived from the Latin root to look after or take care. Even in Indian scenario, the administrator must be like a father at home. Even modern scholars have the opinion of that the public administration feel that the administration is supposed to undertake the functions of the nature to take care of a man from womb to tomb. Actually, the administration has to take care man from womb to tomb, from birth to till up to death. That everybody is expecting civic amenities and good governance. Good governance always depends upon the good administrators, or the administrators should have the visionaries, even actually statesmanship. Even in ancient India, many rulers ruled the country, but we can call few rulers as a visionaries or few rulers as a statesman. In this connection, in ancient Indian polity, then we find the administration or that the system. It was one of the precious duty, and it was one of the responsible duty, and it focused, or it was in the framework of the ethical issues that in ancient period. In fact, actually, the Mauryan administration introduced strong central government in ancient India. I'll speak about actually how before Mauryan administration, how the administrative procedures and administrative system it evolved in connection to the how it linked to the medieval period, how medieval linked with the modern period. Even modern scholars of public administration usually divide the functions of the state into two categories: constituent and ministerial. In present day, in ancient thought, intimately linked with religion and ethics. As I mentioned, religion and ethics are the important focal point of the ancient administration. Even ethics as well as the development of moral standards of the people. Actually, they wanted to elevate the moral standards of the people. Administrators were focused much on the moral standards of the people. The political thought of ancient India was intensely realistic and practical in character. The political ideas of Hindus were simple and laid down the rules of policy which were founded upon the accumulated wisdom of past masters that rules were expected to follow. Already, as I mentioned, that the traditional rules, traditions, usages, and customs or the customary practices, customary laws, it played a very important role in shaping of the administrative policies of the good governance of ancient India. Basically, ancient Indian rulers, they focused much on the ethical values and welfare of the people. Welfare of the people. Ashoka was known for the policies relating to welfare issues. He formulated the welfare administrative policies in his during his reign. That was the concept of the Hindus or the Hindu administration, basically based upon the values and principles. As I mentioned, the concept of usages, past practices, or the customary laws played an important role or predominant role in shaping the administration of ancient India during the course of ancient different ruling dynasties in India. And even many evidences it is focused on the how actually the rulers were ruled the administration in India. Many epigraphical evidences are there, and the sacred literature is also there, particularly Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, and even Manusmriti, or that legal luminaries they expressed, and they focused much on the concepts of the administrative policies and administrative idea. Even Shukra and other writers, I'll discuss about those points later. But almost all the ancient political thinkers, they thought and they formulated the concepts and procedures and policies. For example, Kautilya's Arthashastra is the best specimen during this period. And even the available evidences, in fact, it gives the long time of the state in ancient India confined itself only to the constituent functions. The sphere of the state activity was very extensively extended between the Vedic and Mauryan age. The Indus Valley, during the Indus Valley period, actually, in India, we used to call that as a first urbanization took place. Second urbanization, it took place during the 6th century BC. During the emergence of Buddhism and Jainism, the second urbanization which took place. That urbanization itself took place, or that given to the dimensions of the administrative procedures and the development of the administration in later course. The moral welfare of the citizen or the infusion of an ethical discipline in the life of an individual, which is so much talked about in modern times, was peculiar heritage of administration. But Ashoka state carried out the policy of moral regeneration. I used to quote that actually moral regeneration of his subjects through a new class of officials known as Dharma Mahamatras. These Dharma Mahamatras looked at the administration with moral and as a social, as religious responsibility. And even he appointed the officials called Dharma Mahamatras. Even in Muslim period, they appointed certain officers to look after these kind of matters. But anyway, source to study about the ancient Indian administrative system, the Vedic literature, Buddhist literature, and even Jaina literature. In the Vedic literature, we have 4 Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Atharvana Veda, Samaveda, Atharvana Veda, and Upavedas are also there. Buddhist literature, particularly Tripitakas and even Diganikaya and other important literary sources, focusing much on the procedures of the administration. But particularly Buddhist literature deals about the ancient Indian republics. In India, dear friends, actually, we must have to look into the concept, actually, the types of administration: oligarchy, monarchy, and republican state. We had these kind of 3 systems in ancient India. Monarchical form was the usual form of government. But in some areas, there were republican state. Buddha was also belongs to one of the republican states in ancient India. And Jaina literatures, Angas and Purvas, were also focusing much on the the procedures and the contemporary politics and contemporary administrators, particularly rulers, and their patronage towards the religion and the concept of secular ideas, or even that religious concepts, and how it made a profound impact on the administrative procedures, and how dharma gurus they played important role. These kinds of things are a very important thing. Dharma shastras, particularly already I mentioned that Manu Dharma Shastra is and other Dharma Shastras. And Puranas, there are 18 in numbers. Ramayana and Mahabharata, it is the best testimony to the see that administrative procedures, how it was developed during the Ramayana period and during the Mahabharata, and even how actually the diplomatic relations were there, and how actually the diplomatic dutas or the envoy and even the ambassadors they carried forward uh, the foreign policies or the procedures of the foreign policy to other nations. Manusmriti is also one of the important document, and Shukraniti, Arthashastra. As I already told you, I'll talk about Arthashastra in detail with regarding to some of the points actually how to focus. When I am focusing on the Mauryan administration, I have to deal with the superintendents or the concept of administration according to the Arthashastra. Whatever the concept, it consisted the Arthashastra. Similar concepts actually we could find in the writings of the Megasthenes Indica. Megasthenes was a Greek who he visited the court of Chandragupta Maurya. Whatever he saw in the Mauryan Empire, he documented the things. He mentioned some of the concepts, particularly the administration of the municipal administration of Pataliputra. Municipal administration of Pataliputra. Dear friends, I would like to tell you, no other than the Pataliputra in the world, it is not served as a more than 1000 years as a capital city. The Pataliputra, ancient Pataliputra is a present Patnas. It served as a capital city more than 1000 years, from 6th century BC to the up to the administration of Guptas. It played a predominant role. No place in the world we cannot find these kind of cities in the world as far as connection to my knowledge. I believe that this is about actually the map of India, ancient Indian map, and even that the left actually Mohenjo-daro Indus Valley civilization. It was developed in the northwest of India, and it spreaded up to the Narmada and up to the Assam in the northeast. But anyway, Harappans have developed, or we can call Harappan civilizations urban civilization. They provided all sorts of urban civic amenities. It shows that actually how these urban civic amenities were given by the Harappan cities, but based upon the good governance of the urban administration, or the urban cities had a urban administrative unit. Those units played a predominant role in providing the basic civic amenities. And this slide shows that actually Harappan cities, the ruins of the Harappan city, and even the one of the wonderful concept of Harappan city is underground drainage system. Even not only underground system, they provided the potable drinking water, the pure drinking water to the city. They draw the water from the river, and actually they made a systematic pipe lining, or actually line to bring the water to the cities. And similarly, the sewage water was also carried out from city to the outside the outskirts of the cities, and actually they maintained. The roads were actually straight, there were straight roads, and all these things were possible because of the good governance of the Indus Valley civilization or Harappan civilization. One of the important bigger Harappan site, it is also in India. It is located in India, in Haryana, Rakhi Gadi. And Dolavira is also one of the important cities. But dear friends, actually, let me give some information with regarding to the rainwater harvesting. It is a recent phenomenon. But in Dolavira side, They made arrangement for even rainwater harvesting. Water storage concept, it was there. Whatever actually we are saying now, it is not a new one. Almost all the things which were there, that is the thing actually that UGC insisted us to propagate or to inculcate this Indian knowledge system to the present. But anyway, all the way we are looking towards the West. Everything it came from West actually, but it is wrong actually. Even Asia, for this matter, it provided a wonderful thing. Many things it went from Asia to Europe, and then again in modern period, all those things with the sugar coated or old wine in the new bottle, it looked like a old the old wine it kept in the new bottle. It was served in the modern period during the British period as a new concept. But I must say that actually many things were there. They borrowed it. Even Greeks, they borrowed some of the elements from Indian day-to-day life, day-to-day concepts into their administrative system. After the attacks of Darius, after the attacks of Alexander the Great, we had a good interaction with Greek and India. That even in the during the Kushan period, actually, one of the important architectural style it was developed in India was Gandhara school of art. It was a mixture of India and the Greek culture. The sculptures were Greek, and even the workers, they were the Indians. But anyway, some of the Indian element and Greek element, it was assimilated there itself in the northwest. Even the Gandhara is a present Kandahar. It is in Afghanistan. Once it was a meeting ground of the between the Greek and Indian culture. Anyway, types of government in ancient India already I have mentioned about. Monarchy, it refers to a system of government where a single ruler, typically a king, holds absolute power. King's decisions were final and binding. The Mauryan and Gupta empires were example for monarchical form of in India. Now it is a bigger state. That's why I have taken these two states as a model. But almost all the kings in ancient India, they followed the concept of monarchy, and they followed the concept of administration and the court procedures. The court, or it was a replica of the bigger states in ancient period. Republics were characterized by a system of governance where the power resided in elected representatives. Already I mentioned about the Republican system. Republican system, it was developed during the Gupta period. During the Gupta period, the governance and the Republican concepts were different. And even here, the king or there was no king. Kshatriya community played a predominant role, and even they became the rulers, and even the ruler was elected through the opinion, mass opinion. The decision making process involved debate, discussion among the representatives. The Republic of Vaishali was notable example. In the Lichavi, Vaishali, and Chudraka, even in one of the republics, actually, they had 7,707 members. They were the members of the parliament of the Republican state. It means actually every tribe and every group had a representation in the process of administration in Republican state. And even another state, monarchical, that oligarchical, some states were oligarchical. Few groups were ruling the country, particularly in some Mahajanapadas, actually, there were this kind of administrative system, it was there. Early Vedic, I mentioned about the concept of monarchy and other things. Now, let me focus much on the concept of the early Vedic polity. Here, in society, family was the basic unit. But the basic unit family itself is the best testimony to see the development of political organization during the Vedic period. The head of the family, or that actually the family was known as a kula. Head of the family was called as a kulapa, or father is the head of the family. But here, all families, the group of families known as a village, or it came to be that developed as a villages. The village headman was known as a Gramini. The village headman was a representative of several heads of the families of the village. He was the village was known as a Grama, and the head of the Grama was Gramini. The Gramini was selected from among the heads of the family, and even several villages constituted, the group of villages constituted a wish, no, V-I-S-H, a group of villages. And Vishayapati was the head of the group of villages. All village headmen were finally, they were under the control of Vishayapati, Vishpati or Vishayapati. Vishayapati was the head of the, it will be resembles like a today's district administration or divisional administration or provincial administration. A group of Vish or Vishaya in the Rigvedic Veda as known as a Jana or Gana was the highest level of administration or administrative stratification in the Vedic period. That was the one of the major concept we have to understand. And even king was the head of the Jana, and he was known as a Rajan. And even in the Vedic period, there was a concept called Gopati Janasya Gopa. The Rajan was also known as a Gopati. Gopati means that actually he was the head of the state, or Jana means actually sometimes it resembles or identified with the state. The Janasya Gopa or Gopati Janasya, and he was regarded, the king was regarded as a leader, and he was expected to lead them in the war, and he has to become a good administrator. He has to administer properly, and he has to look after the welfare of the people. Even let me talk about the responsibilities of the king. The Rajan or Raja. The Rajan was to protect the Jana and cattle from the enemies. Actually, in the Vedic period, there was a concept called cattle thief. They have taken the cattle, and the economy of the Vedic period was based or assessed on the basis of the number of cattle having by the commoners. And here, the Raja's duty was to maintain the law and order in the state, and he has to protect the people or his subjects from the enemies, along with offering prayers to the gods on behalf of the Janas. And he has to look after the people, as well as he has to protect the cows from the thief. And here, the administrative structure of the ancient Indian, the king was the head of the state. He was assisted by number of functionaries. The ministers or the functionaries in the early Vedic period. Purohita was the important key portfolio in return for the ritualistic service, and these Purohita was expected to guide the king when actually was going against to the will of the people, and he was expected to control him. The Senani, chief of the army, Senani, and Purohita, Senani, Gramini were the important functionaries of the state. And Rajapati, officer who controlled the territory. Like that today we have Home Minister and as well as Defense Minister. We have likewise actually is the functions were limited, but they had responsibilities on their shoulders. And another 12 Ratnins were there. They were high functionaries of the state to cater the administration or to assist the administration. And even the functionaries Bhagaduga. Bhagaduga was a tax collector. Tax collector, in modern days, we can compare him with the revenue minister. Sangrahitri. Sangrahitri was a treasurer, the today's finance minister. And even another person was there, Govikrita. Govikrita was the in charge of forest. Actually, the today also we have a forest minister. And even all these things are the important, the functionaries were there. And even Ratakara was there, Takshaka was there, Kshatri was there. One of the important points actually have taken, and they were all involved in the administrative of procedures and even involved in the administration during that time. And even in Vedic period, there were assemblies were there. These assemblies were nowhere you can't find. Here, Sabha, Samiti, Vidhata, Gana. These four names frequently mentioned in the Vedas. Sabha was a smaller body. It meant allied. Today we can compare that in Karnataka Vidhana Parishad or Rajya Sabha of the central government. It consisted allied group. And even Samiti, it's a broad-based folk assembly. It was a broad-based folk assembly. It was presided over by the king. Vidhata, socio-cultural assembly with diverse functions. It played a predominant role within the kula or within the clan or within the tribal society. It regulated the socio-cultural aspects in the locality. And even Gana, as I already mentioned, assembly, the women were also attached with the Rigvedic time. Even the Rigvedic women, fortunate enough, she was allowed to get married according to their whims and fancy. She had the choice to select her life partner, and she had the right to get property share. And even some of the women scholars, they defeated the male scholars during that. But in the later Vedic period, the social system and social customs, social practices were started to deteriorate. And I'll talk about that, why it happened, why the things were started to decline and deteriorate later stage. But these Sabha and Samiti played a role called checks and balances to king. When the king became an autocrat, at the time, Sabha and Samiti checked is the powers of the king, and it instructed and it stopped the king not to become an autocrat, particularly autocracy. The dictator is that word autocrat and dictator, little bit it sounds different. But anyway, Sabha and Samiti, it controlled the things. Here, the Sabha and Samiti were important assemblies from the political point of view, and it showed the king eagerness to win the support. Actually, how today also it is very important thing for Rajya Sabha Vidhan Parishad in Karnataka. You see that actually the nomination process is going on. All the way, the nominated members, they have to, all the way they used to try to win the ruling party or the party which supported him to become a member. They used to support their win that or support their views and win their support only in all the way. It was also there in during the Vedic, but actually it was not diluted like today. Even in the later Vedic period start from nearly 10,000 BC, sorry, 1000 BC, and it continued up to the 500 BC. But here, some monarchical states, the tribal monarchy was there earlier. Almost all the tribes were transformed into a monarchical state. Those monarchical states had the concept called empire or samrajya, or that bigger state, or it transformed into a bigger state. Large unit of political organization was known as a Janapada, Rashtra. Rashtra was the concept, later Vedic period was focused much on that. King was selected through a Kshatriya family. Even anybody who became a Shudra, who became a Kshatriya, one of the yagas which was performed, or the sacred ceremony which was performed to make him as a Kshatriya, that is called Hiranyagarbha sacrifice. Even king was expected to perform the Rajasuya to become a king. If you wanted to become a Samrata, he was expected to perform Ashwamedha or sacrifice. Even another yaga is there, that sacrifice is there, Purushamedha, Vajapeya. Vajapeya, it means drink of strength. It focused that Yayati's novel, it is in Yayati's concept, you can see that actually the world king again getting youth. It is there, it is a concept. And even the largest political unit of political organization was known as a Janapada or Rashtra, and it was headed by the king. The king was usually, already as I mentioned, Kshatriya family. Rise of powerful kingdom. The most powerful kingdoms came to existence in the earlier Vedic period. Only the village or the tribal monarchy was there. All tribes were amalgamated, which became a single political unit. When the rise of that, or the political power, it was increased, immediately the powers of the king was also raised, and administrative machinery was also elaborated. Earlier, I have mentioned about the only few administrators. Now, let me make mention about many functionaries. That number, how it was increased. King was assisted by large number of officials in the later Vedic period. They were Kulapati, head of the family, Gramini, head of the village, Senani, commander-in-chief, Madhyamasi, mediator of disputes, Purohita was the chief priest, and even Spasa, spies are the messengers, Rajapati, officer of pastoral land, the grazing, these pastoral lands were used for grazing purpose. Bhagaduga, collector of revenue, and even the Jiva Gribha was a police officer. Mahishi, chief queen, Patta Mahishi we used to call, Akshavafa, accountant, Sutta, charioteer, Atapati, chief judge, Atapati, Sangrahitri, treasurer, Kshatri, chamberlain, Takshana, carpenter. That carpenter played a predominant role. Why? Actually was a maker of the chariots. The chariots played a prominent role in the later Vedic wars. Palagala was the messenger. Govi Kartana was a keeper of forest and the games. Actually, another important portfolio which was assigned to Govi Kartana was games. The games and amusement, particularly dice, and even other games. The outdoor games were also there, the chariot race. But in the Rajasuya sacrifice, the king was expected to win the chariot race. Then only you're going to become a king. And even already I told you 16 Mahajanapadas. I have a list of 16 Mahajanapadas here before the formation of the political institutions. Kashi, Kosala, Anga, Magadha, Vajji, Malla, Chedi, Vatsa, Kuru, Panchala, Matsya, Surasena or Saurasena, Asaka, Avanti, Gandhara, Kamboja. These are the important 16 states that even these Mahajanapadas were played a important role in the formulation of political institutions in a different aspect, or in the process of evolution. They played a predominant role. This slide actually is having the Mauryan Empire map of the Mauryan Empire. The orange color, it is having the Mauryan territory. That Mauryan territory stretch up to south in Karnataka. The Suvarnagiri. Suvarnagiri was the capital city. That is, it is visible in the map. Even in the northwest, particularly Gandhara, even some portions of Afghanistan was also part of the, even today's Pakistan and Afghanistan, part of the Mauryan Empire. In the east, up to Bengal, even Bihar, Bengal was the part. And even another light shaded orange color is a tributary states. The star mark resembles to the Pataliputra. Pataliputra is the capital city. Even as I told you, actually, it is served as a more than 1,000 years. No other place in the world never served as a 1,000 years as a capital city. And even another things, wherever actually Ashoka went, and wherever the territories were part of Mauryan Empire, they installed the inscriptions. Actually, we can call him as Ashoka as a father of Indian inscriptions. He spoke to the people through his inscription. The humanitarian considerations were there in the Ashokan administration. But anyway, in this connection, I would like to focus much on the Mauryan administration. Mauryan administration was a transition from the dark age to the light age. But here, there was a strong central government. Mauryans introduced strong central government. The entire administration of the Mauryan, it was focused much on the concept of the Kautilya's Arthashastra. The administrative procedures were also as per the Kautilya Arthashastra. Even Manu was also sometimes actually mentioned that. Even one more thing actually I have forgotten to mention, but we have that the state formation and the political organization, how it was emerged in the West. Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, three political thinkers, they had their own ideas called social contract theory. In Buddhistic perception, we have social contract theory. According to the Manu, where there was a anarchy it prevailed, how big fish devoured small one in the water in a such a way at that particular point of time, the people, the group of people assembled, they selected one fellow among intelligent and one who that he was convinced them to lead, and they made an agreement with him. He was expected to protect them from the enemies, and they were agreed to pay that piece of bread, or they're earning one piece of their earning to him for his service as a protector. In a such a way that state or the ruling, the king was emerged in the Indian context. But in the Western concept, when according to the Rousseau, man is born free, is chained everywhere. And even the concept of mine and thine, in the nature, human beings were fantastically, they were living. When the concept of mine and thine, it crept into their mind, immediately became a selfish. He started to overpower the weaker in the society. That's what I said, the concept of Matsya Nyaya, the fish analogy. The all the way stronger devoured the weaker in the society. In the Indian context also, Buddhist context also, it emerged. But I think maybe this idea, it went to Persia, from Persia to Greek, from Greek to Europe, might be in the modern politics it was developed. And even the lowest administrative, even actually the state, how actually it was formulated and how it functioned, all those things are very important thing. But Mauryan administration, Chandragupta Maurya, he introduced the strong administrative system and procedure in India. Even no states in India never actually come across this kind of administrative procedures and administrative policies with regarding to the Mauryan state policies. But anyway, one of the important and dynamic aspects of the Mauryan administration, they introduced strong central government, and the number of functionaries were also increased, and they had a strong hold. Nowadays, in the modern means of communication is very easy from control the administration from Delhi to Kanyakumari, or the Indira Point 6-degree channel. It is easy. We have the communication process is easy now. But where there was a difficult to handle the communication and transportation and communication, how these rulers meticulously evolve the procedures in connection to the administrative structure in ancient India. It is very important aspect in the concept of that Mauryan, how actually these Mauryans really emerged the administrative procedures during this period. But as far as connection to that, Indian history entered into a new era with the beginning of the Mauryan Empire. For the first time, India attained the political unity, solidarity, and the integrity of the concept. Integrity is also very important, and even administrative uniformity. Whatever actually that in the you can you are finding in the Ashokan inscription, but it was totally applied to the entire state. And even the vast geographical area that Mauryan state focused vast geographical area, and which attained neither early that never earlier actually was also not attained. Even after the Mauryan Empire, never we witnessed. Only during the medieval period, during the British period, we achieved this kind of territory, and which brought the entire vast area under the control of the Britishers. And even Mauryan administration was directly under the king. Mauryan administration basically focused on the administrative procedures of the Kautilyan Arthashastra. This Arthashastra is basically, it was written by Kautilya. Kautilya was a clever diplomat, he was a clever political thinker, and even whatever actually that Mauryan state has achieved because of the contributions of Kautilya, that Kautilya's Arthashastra, it was found in the ORI, Oriental Research Institute in Mysore. One of the important documents or the evidences which is supporting the Mauryan administration was Arthashastra, and the Greek historians, particularly Pliny and other Greek writers, particularly Megasthenes Indica, is focusing much on the administrative procedures and administrative system of Pataliputra. Pataliputra had more than 60 wards, more than 60 wards. Even each ward has their own representatives. All those representatives represented the mass, and even with regarding to Pataliputra administration was very important in connection to that. Even the state was divided into number of another important things, Jataka stories. Jataka stories not only tells about Gautam Buddha, but also it tells about the administrative processes of the contemporary period, particularly Buddhist inscriptions of the Mauryan period, as well as that early contemporary rulers. Actually, they make mention that about the administrative procedures of Mauryan state. Even Ashokan inscription, Devanam Piyana Piyadasina Ashokasa, almost only in 2 places of Ashokan inscription contains the name of Ashoka, but majority of the Ashokan inscription focused much on the human values and human values and the morality, and even for good governance. Actually, is administration basically based upon the moral principles and moral things. And even Mauryans developed a well-organized police and espionage system. Some scholars, they used to say that Mauryan state as a police state. But even Mauryan state was a monarchical state. King was the supreme head of the state and leader of the state and leader of the army, leader of the people during this time. Generally, there is a one concept in ancient Indian system. Even still today, we have been following it. Elder son, all the way, he was supposed to become the king. He was next to the king. But in the Islamic state, the fate of the king was decided through the sword. The fate of the king, it was decided by the sword. For example, Alauddin Khilji and the Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, Alauddin Khilji killed his own uncle to come to the power. There was no law of succession. Here, ancient Indian system developed a law of succession, preferably elder son who became the king. And even in some state where there was no male issues at the time, female daughters were also made as a rulers of that state. That there is a example for that. And even all this thing says that how the political aspects based upon the moral skills and the hereditary kingship. Hereditary was the major king. Kings were studied political, economic, and defensive tactics. Particularly, king must be aware of the defense tactics and the war strategy, war technology. War technology means don't consider to the present day's technology. Present day, we can see the electronic warfare. But at the time, that according to the concept of the state, that they developed their own weaponaries and other things. From the childhood itself, actually was nurtured the concept of administration and other things. And even crown prince was appointed, that the crown princes were appointed, or that they were appointed to the provinces as a governor to get the administrative experiences or the administration. Even during the Mauryan period, the administration was well organized and systematized, and even administrative functionaries' numbers were also increased. That even in the central administration, king was the center of attraction. In the central administration, king was the center of administration, and even this Mauryan state was a powerful monarchical state. According to Kautilya, the king should behave like a father. Already in the beginning itself, I have mentioned that king was the head of the state, no doubt. Simultaneously, he has to care the children or his subjects like his children. He look after the welfare of the subjects like his family members. And that was the concept. King was expected to be an efficient warrior, descendant of high family, and an able provider of justice. Actually, king must be impartially administer the justice, and even king was expected to take wise decisions, and he was expected to become a wise administrator. That was the administration, the quality of the administration. Megasthenes' opinion that the king had to be just during his leisure. The king was the commander of the army and chief justice, but his powers were not absolute. According to Kautilya, again I am quoting, a king is not one who only enjoys the kingship, but the king is one who does welfare of his subjects. That is the most important aspects of the state. And even there used to be a council of ministers to provide assistance to the administrative work of the huge Mauryan Empire. The king was selected only efficient people in his council. Kautilya believed that the vehicle of administration could not function on one wheel. Kautilya said that minister functionaries and the king were the two wheels of the one wheel is king, another wheel is king and minister and their functionaries were the important to run the administration effectively. That was the belief of the Kautilya. In order to function effectively, the king had to have the council of ministers to help in administration, to administer the vast empire. King was expected to appoint the deputy councillors or the councillors or any other functionaries of the state. Therefore, the king should appoint and take advice from his ministers. These ministers used to be honest, faithful, clever, and they have to guide. Judiciously, they were expected to administer without harming the subjects. Kautilya's Arthashastra describes about 18 ministers with specific portfolios. And even earlier, the ministers were used to head his department. The crown prince was also in the council of ministers, chief minister, commander in chief, and even Davarnik, Purohita, Antarveshika, jailer is also Vandagarika, and even Samartha, Sannidhata, Pradeshita means provincial head, Nayaka, Paura, Chief Justice, Karmantika, head of the council, Dandapala, Durgapala, Antapala. These three officials look after the administration of justice and police. There used to be small committee of council of even actually today cabinet. We have cabinet ministers. All that total minister number is more. Their cabinet ministers or there are cabinet ministers. Their number is small. Each committee of minister 3 to 4 ministers called as a mantri. According to Vincent Adam Smith, the Mauryan kingdom was clearly divided into departments, minutely into category of works, whose works were defined in the absolute terms. The terms and conditions, policies, procedures, everything was formulated in effective manner. The provincial administration. The vast empire was divided into 6 provinces. These 6 provinces called as a chakra. The Uttarapata was known as a northern Pata. The provinces included the cities called Gandhara, Cambodia, Afghanistan, Kashmir, Punjab. The present Afghanistan was also part of India at the time. Even it was sharing its border with Persia. Kashmir, Punjab, Takshila were the part of the northern Uttarapata. Madhya Desha, the province which included modern Uttar Pradesh, Bengal, Bihar, it included the Pataliputra. Dakshinapata, the provinces of Andhra, Maharashtra, even southern portion of northern Karnataka, even the Swarnagiri, and even Avanti Rashtra. It means the Ujjaini was the capital city. It was known as a western province. Kathiwada, present Kathiwad, Gujarat, Rajputana, Malwa constituted as this province. Another important, it was included during the reign of Ashoka was the Kalinga. It included the modern Orissa, parts of Andhra Pradesh. Its capital city was Tosili. Even there was a strong war between the rulers of Kalinga and Ashoka. And another important point, the town administration of Maurya. It is fantastic. It is a wonderful thing. Each town was under the chief control or the chief called Nagaraka. That is, later on he came to be known as a Nagarika, the Pratama Praje, or the first citizen of the administrative unit. Nagaraka, Gopa, Sthanika were the another important names were used. Officials, they assisted to Nagaraka. Megasthenes' description of Pataliputra Bibi cited in this regard. This was a very big town of India. This was established on the banks of Ganga and Son rivers. And even its length was 9.5 miles. Breadth was 3 to 4 miles during that time. There were 6 committees. Each committee consisted of 5 people each. Each committee had its work to schedule. That committees were Artisan Committee, Foreigners Committee to look after the safety and security of the foreigners, and Census Committee was also there. Trade and Tax Committee was also there. Trade and Tax Committee, and even with regarding to other financial matters were also looked after. Even if any foreigner who died in Pataliputra or in Mauryan state, his body was disposed in an appropriate manner, in a respectful manner. The committee which was looked after it. Even Bandagarika and chief passport officer was also there to look into the matters of the foreigners' visit, and visitors were expected to have permission letter from the authorities. These were the important aspect in connection to that. Trade and commerce was also important thing. It was the department played a predominant role in hello, some disturbance is there. Please mute those who are put on the mic. Anyway, trade and commerce committee looked after the collection of, or even actually to maintain the transit duties. Even next, that administrative procedure, that the last and the foremost important unit of the administration was village administration. I'll discuss that with the Uttarameruru village administration in the next coming slides. India under the Gupta rulers, that in many respects they carry forward the administration of the Mauryans, but certain changes they made according to the whims and fancies of the subjects of that during that period, and even the period was expected to some changes. Even the administration, the constituents of administration was the watershed between the India's past and the future traditions, polity and government. Most noticeable feature of the administration, presence of feudators must have severally restricted the Gupta royal authority. Earlier, there were number of feudatories were there, now reduced it. The one of the Gupta rulers, he performed the Ashwamedha, and even he was known as a Indian Napoleon. He established a vast empire. And one thing actually, they applied the concept called Grahana Moksha Parigrahana. Wherever actually they went, they captured, they invited the rulers for war, and even after winning the war, they captured those states. Again, actually, they returned that state to their own rulers, and they collected only taxes. The most noticeable feature of the post-Mauryan administrative development was gradual erosion of the government centralized power. The first Shatavahanas and Kushanas entered into feudatory relation with the smaller kingdoms. And even the smaller kingdoms hold the bigger state. They patronized, they became the foundation stone to the any bigger states in the at the top. The Fahyam's account and the inscriptions of the Samudragupta and others gives detailed information with regarding to the Gupta administration. Fahyam characterized Gupta administration as a mild and benevolent. And even He appreciated the efficiency of the Gupta administration, as well as he was able to travel without any fear throughout the Gangetic Valley. On the whole, the administration was more liberal than that of the earlier Mauryans. The significant aspects of the Gupta bureaucracy was that since it was less organized, elaborate, the Mauryan administration of 3rd century BC, it allowed several officers to be combined with in the hands of the same person, and posts tended to become hereditary in the later stages. Gupta kings enjoyed large number of powers. Those powers covered the political, administrative, military, and judicial fields. Gupta kings appointed all the governors, important military and civil officers. They were also responsible to the king. The governors and their officers had to work under the control and the guidance of the, or with the guidance of the king itself. They have to help the king in their administration, and they have to discharge or deliver their duty according to the dictates of the king. And even the next aspect, what exactly I wanted to say is the village administration of the Guptas. Last that actually 5 minutes time I have, that within that actually I have to focus on this aspect. The last but not least, and it was the foundation for all the administration. Even still today, the local body administration is very important and very essential in the for all the during the course of the historical process. Even still, it is playing important role. The Uttar Meruru inscription. Here, the Chola village administration played a dominant role, and it is the best specimen of South Indian administration. But here, Cholas, the Parantaka Chola in 1921 AD or CE, he introduced the inscriptions of Uttar Meruru. This inscription contains 17 lines. The entire the temple wall consisted of the rules and procedures, regulations of the village administration of the Uttar Meruru. But Uttara Meruru was the best specimen of rural administration or the village administration in ancient Tamil country. And even some of the elements were continued and carried out by the later rulers. Even still today, the same procedures are also followed. The Parantaka, during his reign, he introduced the inscription. According to that inscription, the Uttara Meruru was a village. That village focused or the consisted of 30 wards. These 30 wards carried out the administrative procedures. Anybody wanted to see the or to become the members of the Sabha, they were expected to possess certain qualities. He was expected to become a Trayi. He was expected to have the knowledge of Vedas. And the second point is, he was expected to have a land. And that is second point. Third point is, he was expected to construct house with his own land. The age between 35 to 70. After 70, they were not expected to contest in the election. The minimum is 35, maximum is 70. Nowadays, it is even beyond the 70. There's some politicians, they are in in the politics. This is the present situation. One must not be indulged in Pancha Mahapataka. Killing of Guru, having the sexual intercourse with the Guru's wife, or that involves in the immoral activity. And those who were not finalized the accounts in the last body, or they were failed to submit the accounts of the earlier body, all these things were become that disqualification. The qualifications are the important things, but here one who has been on any of the committees, but has not submitted his accounts. One who has stolen the property of another, relatives of the candidate, cannot become or contest in the elections. That is the procedure. That is the one of the important aspect. And even in fact, another point I have to mention about the Kautilya's Arthashastra. In Kautilya's Arthashastra, we expected that Western thinkers focused much on the only 4 elements of the state. But Kautilya focused 7 elements of the state. That is called Saptanga. 7 limbs of the state was king. King was the first limb. Minister was the second important limb. Janapada was the third important. Janapada means territory. Durga was fortified settlement. Kosha means treasury. Danda means military or force or the police system. Mitra is a friends or allies. Friends means to have a diplomatic relation with the state. They were expected to have a good envoy or ambassadors or the foreign ministers. Even with regarding to that point, actually, I was failed to that I have forgotten to mention about this Saptanga theory or the concept of Saptanga. But I was talking about the administration of Chola. This Chola village administration, basically, it was expected to continue. Even actually, I am comparing this with the Manasollas of 12th century writer of Someshwara of South, actually. Manasollasa and even Mitakshara Samhita of Vijnaneshwara. Mitakshara Samhita, I'll tell you that in the next class, I have to speak about ancient Indian judicial system. At that time, I have to focus much on the Mitakshara Samhita. But this Manasollasa, king should avoid untruth, treachery, or going against to the will of the people, going against to the will of the state, illicit intercourse with the women, or illicit illegal relationship, eating what it is forbidden in the Shastras, and even contact with outcasts, particularly in some area. But you should revere, you should revere all the gods, satisfy the cows and even Brahmins, and even reverence of his forefathers, feed his guests, and obey his preceptors, practice everything. It is focused and protect the people or the those who came as a refugees. He was expected to protect them. These are all the important duties. It is focused in the Manasolas of the 12th century of Vijnaneshwara. Even Kautilya has also laid down the certain rules and regulations. In the state formation, 7 elements are the important aspect. According to that, Westerners, they focused the territory, people, sovereignty are the important, and administrative units are the 4 important. But here, the Indian context, it is very important thing with regarding to the 7 limbs of the state. In correction to this, my stipulated time is